Jeevers, welcome back to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. What up, man?
Hey, thank you, brother. Excited to be here. Excited to be back.
Dude, good to have you back for round number two. So I was looking back into the archives, if you will. Do you remember the last time you came on the show?
It was a while ago,
It
so
was a
I'm
while
not
ago.
exactly sure the date, but
Okay, so is your episode released April 14th, 2020?
oh,
So I don't remember exactly when we recorded. I feel like we probably recorded it like right as shit was hitting the fan. Because I don't remember like talking about, COVID with you. So it was episode number 100 of the podcast. April 14th, 2020 was a release. So go back into the archives because we really get into Jeevers' background, into CBD, into his supplement business, into PRōZE, which of course we'll talk about. But I just thought it was crazy, as we look back onto that and perhaps when we recorded, I don't remember talking about COVID, but it's kind of remarkable how things have shifted and how much has happened since then, right?
no kidding. It feels like forever ago because, while some people may say, not a lot of stuff got done, I don't know about you. I can pretty much share about you. Like there's a ton of stuff that went down from that point till now, just so much growth and so much development, so much interesting opportunities that came out of that actually.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Maybe just give us a quick rundown of what is PRōZE and what people should be looking for there.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, PRōZE is a company that I started about 3 years ago, and it's a performance nutrition company. And so like many other kind of nutritional dietary supplement products out there, I kind of developed my own, but I really focused PRōZE on specific benefits, performance benefits. And I focused on pain relief, but mostly muscle recovery, muscle resilience. So I created a product on that. I created a product that focuses on sleep and the healthy sleep and the processes of healthy sleep, a product for immunity and inflammation, and then another product for focus and concentration, and another one for emotional balance. And how it started was basically taking the five areas in which individuals were taking a lot of pharmaceuticals and seeing if I could develop something that was, in my term, therapeutic performance. So it's very much performance driven. So it's very much about, what many of your listeners are all about, performance driven individuals, but it could be so potent that it could be used therapeutically as well too, because the foundation of how all of my formulations are is not looking at the symptoms, but looking at the root issues that drive the processes that create the symptoms. So it's very much kind of an Eastern way, holistic way of looking at how you can do things for your body. Because, at the very end of the day, many times you can't just trace one pathology back to one symptom. It's a combination of many things that are not aligned or are deficient or going awry or are hindered by stress or toxins or whatever. And you don't really know. You don't ever really know. And that's why many of the kind of health issues that people have, they're very difficult to solve. And the reason why they're very difficult to solve is because not only are we looking at it from a symptom level, which is kind of just numbing the symptoms, and that's, the whole Western kind of way of looking at health sometimes. But then secondly, and most importantly, is that you just don't really know which one of the levers or which one of the engines isn't working properly. And it's really difficult to find. And that's why you have to do things that are so comprehensive, that are so foundational, that are so kind of, looking at, all of the direct inputs that go into the body, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. One of the things that I appreciate is, and just kind of from following you on social media and stuff, despite the fact that you're clearly very, very knowledgeable in supplementation, is you are just preaching this sort of foundational level, which, I do every single episode. We talk about this stuff, but you're just really preaching this foundational level of lifestyle and nutritional and exercise awareness and behavior change. And it's like, supplement or medication is going to fix the problem, right? We need to understand the root cause, which ultimately is oftentimes lifestyle driven. However, then as we work our way up, perhaps the hierarchy of importance, then of course there's room for supplementation, which is where your products come into play. Now, your PRōZE products are very unique in that you leverage CBD as a delivery mechanism and obviously therapeutic aid in those products. Talk to us briefly about the benefits of doing that and how that is a benefit.
CBD or hemp oil, right? So hemp oil is kind of, the natural source that provides the nutrient of CBD. So I always compare it to orange juice is the hemp oil, and then the vitamin C that's found in that orange juice is the CBD, right? And, a few years ago, there was this huge green rush, a CBD rush, where all of a sudden this amazing new molecule, but really the juice, meaning the hemp oil, was now available for the dietary supplement to use as an ingredient. See, most people don't realize that the reason why you didn't hear of hemp oil or CBD for a long time is because it was unavailable to us. Like, we knew it. We would read about the values of hemp oil and cannabinoids and all of the nutrients that are found in there, but the regulations didn't allow you to use that ingredient. Well, all of a sudden now that opened up, and now you were able to actually use it. And it was such a wonderful ingredient in the fact that it was really looking at managing and regulating the biological processes or the physiological processes that your body went through. So imagine this, right? There's certain ingredients that are the process. So let's look at something like a turmeric, let's just say, right? And this is an ingredient with certain components that have anti-inflammatory benefits. So basically, it's your body is inflamed. It's going to help to kind of curb that inflammation. Okay, right? The neat thing about what CBD does is that it regulates the inflammatory process. So it basically says, okay, I'm going to work at an area on the inflammatory, process that says, is there too much or is there too little? I'm going to do that the same with the central nervous system. So I'm going to stimulate it or I'm going to not stimulate it. Or it's going to work for the hormones, where if it's enough dopamine or less dopamine, it's actually regulating these processes, which is why it was so universal in the benefits that it was providing. Because, on one hand, you're saying to yourself, how does this one ingredient help with pain relief, with sleep, with, digestive issues, with brain health, with, all of the other kind of area, nausea, whatever it was that was coming out, the research was coming out with? Well, you would understand that if you realize, oh, it's actually not doing that. It's just regulating the processes that cause for stimulation to be, upregulated or downregulated. It was able to regulate the hormonal processes so that you had some more or less. See, that's why it has gained so much attention. That's why it's used in this pharmaceutical sense, because it also has a very wide window of tolerance, meaning that, certain ingredients, you got to be careful. If you're going to be using it in a therapeutic way, there's a small window of tolerance, meaning that if you give too much, it's going to be bad. If you give it too less, it's going to be bad.
Right.
Well, it happened that CBD had a very wide window. And so
perhaps we could compare it to almost like an adaptogenic herb, like something that
it is an adaptogenic herb.
Okay, well, there you have it. I mean, that's exactly what I think about when we think about stress hormones and adaptogenic herbs and things that are really synergistic to the body's processes, to its production of or regulation of certain hormones. And we talked about sleep and mood and energy and digestion. And so that was well explained. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. And so what's the biggest differentiator, I guess, between, your PRōZE products? Because you've combined the CBD with things like what? So we talk about sleep, like melatonin, and energy or cognitive function, maybe magnesium, right? And turmeric, you said, in terms of pain and inflammation. So what's the biggest differentiator between the PRōZE products and perhaps some of the other CBD products? Because like I was just at Circle K and there was a CBD tincture, if you will, like on the counter, right? So what's the deal?
Thank you for that question, because, this is the question that everyone should be asking about every supplement that they take.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's not about the ingredients. It's about the philosophy. See, the ingredients are the drivers for a certain philosophy that company, that individual, that brand has in the way that they feel you will get the greatest benefit. So let me give you an example, is that I don't really care about any of my ingredients. Today, there may be CBD in my products. Tomorrow, they may not be. Today, there may be ashwagandha in there, and tomorrow it may not be. Because at the very end of the day, what the ingredients are doing is supporting the philosophy of, for example, when we talk about sleep. I don't really care about your poor sleep, because that is a mere symptom of a root cause, which is the inability to get into a deep state of rest and relaxation. Sleep is way too high of a metabolic activity for your body to be forced into. We know this because if you force your body into it with a sedative such as an Ambien or NyQuil or Benadryl or pain, we know that you're not going through the proper sleep cycles.
Right.
You don't get, right? So therefore, we know that. So therefore, what is it that is disturbing that rest and relaxation? Now comes the philosophy. And it's my philosophy. Doesn't mean that it's right, doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it's right for me in the sense that I believe it's because you have an inability to manage your blood sugar, which creates inflammation and cortisol spikes at nighttime. Secondly, I believe that you're on a fight or flight, a 911 emergency nervous response up until you go to bed. And then the third thing is that I believe that you expose yourself to a lot of things that break down the brain signals to tell your body that it's time for sleep. Because I believe in those three things, and that is my philosophy, I then go grab ingredients that I've seen to help those things. That's why all of a sudden you see a product that has cinnamon and cinnamon bark and basil and bergamot and GABA and valerian and the ingredients needs to have a meaning. And see, that's the uniqueness about anybody's product, because at the very end of the day, the top companies, we're buying the same CBD. We're buying the same ashwagandha. We're buying the same reishi mushroom. We're doing the same tests. We're doing the same potency levels. We may even have some of the same dosages. But the difference is how did you put this together to allow your body to get the greatest benefit? That's what, essentially makes PRōZE really, really different. Like the product that you saw at CVS, there's a lot of things that I could say that make us, they're probably not this. They probably don't do third-party testing. They probably don't have 17, but let's forget about that. Let's not even compare ourselves to that group. Let's compare us to the top 2%. And then just a little side note, CBD's gotten really interesting, guys. The reason why you do see it everywhere is because at one time you were buying it for $10,000 a kilo. Now you're buying that same ingredient with the same potency, with the same testing, with the same everything for $1,300 a kilo. Now all of a sudden it's become everywhere. And now you've got these kind of, CBD wars happening, which is yours has 500, mine has 600, his has 700. That's a philosophy that says, I don't believe that people are deficient of CBD. Okay, right? I believe that they can be helped with CBD, but I believe that they have a deficiency in these root issues that need to be solved.
That's a very holistic approach, which I think is a really incredible way of approaching it. Now, to do yourself credit, though, and to do justice to the products, because the philosophy obviously is so important. But what I really want to highlight, and then we can kind of continue the conversation, is it's not just about the product itself. It's not just that it has turmeric. It's not just that it has a certain amount of CBD, even if it's the same amount of CBD as another product, but it also has magnesium. It has the synergy of all of the nutrients combined. That is the magic in the product. And this is, I think, supplementation in general. If you are just looking for a vitamin C or an ascorbic acid, like you can find just an ascorbic acid. But what is the overarching approach to how we're utilizing this product? And so you've created the products around, okay, all of these really comprehensive underlying issues, right? Sleep and mood and cognitive function and muscle pain and the inflammatory process as being just these big drivers. And so that's really where the science and your background has come into play of like, okay, how do we put together a functional nutrient to be able to support that system and the body as a whole? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's a great point, because, if you're not, and I like this, the word you use is synergizing, because that really is the science. Like if you just say, the 2 years that it took to figure out what formulation that we wanted to put together, 3 months were figuring out the ingredients. The rest of the months were figuring out, wait a second, are we really complementing each of these ingredients so that we could get an enhanced benefit, an accelerated benefit? Because remember, guys, at the very end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to do more with less. Because if you start using higher amounts of certain nutrients, now all of a sudden you start getting into a space where it could be detrimental for some people. For example, 150 milligrams of magnesium, and create a synergistic formula so that you get a formula that provides 300 milligrams of effect of magnesium.
Right.
But if you would have put 300 milligrams of magnesium in from the get-go, you could get a lot of issues that people have because
Right.
you put too much of it. See, that's the wonderful thing about what nutrition does. Nutrition already has its activators and neutralizers. It already has all of this kind of wonderful matrix so that if you ate too much of something, right, that the other nutrients in that food was going to help to kind of neutralize some of that. That's what you're basically trying to do. The best with supplementation is to find that network,
Well, I think that provides a really nice segue into just talking about supplementation as a whole. And so where does, in your philosophy, where does supplementation come into play? When do we consider supplementation? Why should someone consider supplementing beyond a quote unquote nutritious diet?
So you're right. I've got a bias, but I'm also very realistic and pragmatic. You can't out supplement a lack of a positive attitude. You can't out supplement a poor diet. You can't out supplement, movement. You can't out supplement community and sunlight and all that. And so I want to be very clear is that supplementation, if done properly, is the last thing that you do. If you want to optimize your health and you want to optimize supplementation, you're doing all of these foundational things before supplementation, because that's the great thing about how supplement works is they work in a way in which it's very foundational, like they build on top of each other. And if you've got this solid foundation for supplementation to build on, you're going to get a lot of benefit from that supplement. Because if you're thinking that it's going to fill in your massive deficiencies of your lifestyle, it's going to fill in some of it, but it's not going to fill it in a way that is going to be of value. And what I mean by a value is what you're investing into it, meaning paying into it, you're not going to get out. And see, that's what I think you guys have to remember is that, supplementation, it isn't inexpensive. The good stuff, it costs you, okay,
Definitely.
right? And so the thing is if you want to get the most value out of those things, see, in your head, you're thinking, well, gosh, if I take something that's and I'm just throwing, a $90 kind of, product, well, then I don't have to do this one thing.
Mm.
I don't have to eat right. I don't have to rest. I don't have to, it's going to make up for that. And that's what they'll tell you that it does, right? Because that's a really great way to get you to spend $90 is saying, hey, you don't have to do the hard work.
Right.
I'll do that hard work for you. But guess what? If you look at the science, if you look at the research, if you look at the real evidence, it doesn't do the hard work for you. But what it does is if you're able to do that hard work, oh my goodness, I'll tell you, you take some good products and it's going to accelerate you forward. It's going to get you that last, 20% to like a very extreme goal that you have. So that's how I kind of look at supplementation. And the role of supplementation is, now you understand, it is a way to supplement your lifestyle, a good lifestyle. And people always ask me, gosh, Jeevers, which is the supplement or best nutrient to take? And my answer to that is, which one are you the most efficient in?
Right.
Because that's the best one for you,
Yeah, no, definitely. And what clicked for me in when you were explaining that was really like, if we're talking about, sleep as an example, is instead of thinking about, okay, well, what's the best form of magnesium? How much melatonin do I need for sleep? What's the right combination of lemon balm and valerian root and whatever? It's not something that I'm going to add to help me improve my sleep, but rather is suggesting that as long as I'm first and foremost acknowledging why there's a sleep deficiency to begin with, that's paramount. And then acknowledging, okay, now I can do this to only enhance. And it comes from this, I think about it as like a highly driven, this is something in our business and with the type of clients that we work with called invested improvers. And these are very similar to probably the professional athletes that you've worked with through the entirety of your career. But it's the mentality and it's the attitude of, what can I add that's going to compound the benefits that I'm going to invest in this process, right? I'm going to put time and energy and money into this. How do I get the greatest return, right, on my investment? And so when we start to think about the supplements that we're leveraging from a facilitator standpoint of how is this going to exponentially increase the results, instead of, is this something that I'm simply using to just band-aid the fact that maybe I just need more magnesium because I don't sleep or because I don't eat any vegetables or grains or anything like that, or what have you, is that's definitely, I think, a good way perhaps of thinking about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, here's the thing, Ben, at the very end of the day, all of these nutrients that you're taking, as long as they're nutrients that the body has familiarity with, they're going to work. They're going to work. 10 milligrams of vitamin C is going to work. It's the same as like 300 milligrams of vitamin C. It's going to work. Now the question is that how well is it going to work for the investment that you put into it? And see, that's the thing, is that as long as you're working with things that the body, like I said, has familiarity with, remember when they talk about these products and they talk about these ingredients, right? They talk about certain pathways and processes that it's working on to give the benefit. Have you noticed that it's not a new process? Your body was already doing that process. And it just so happened that when they took a certain nutrient, it showed that that was the process and how it was working, or it showed that it was able to enhance that process. But it was already doing it. So the question is now, what are you doing to your lifestyle that's allowing that process not to work as efficiently as without the supplement?
Yeah.
Or that it's not working as powerfully as without the supplement. And oftentimes it's because you've created, in general, the stress on your systems that then has not allowed these processes to work. So when you look at supplementation, what you're really looking at is what types of stresses are you placing on the body? And if you're placing significant stresses on the body, whether it's that you're not getting enough nutrition, which is incredibly stressful, or that you are overwhelming the system with your lifestyle and the nutrition cannot keep up, that is when you start thinking about supplementation.
Do you think that we can get enough nutrition from our food?
I would love that. But the thing is that it's very difficult to consume the amount of food that you would need, access to that food, and then to get it in such a way where it has the nutrient density that you want. And then you've got to make sure that it's preserved and stored properly. And then you've got to make sure that you don't overcook it. And then you got to make sure that you're at the right, digestive environment to be able to absorb it. So, this is a great question, because oftentimes, driven people will say, well, you can just get all of it from the foods that you consume. And I say, yes, it's there. It's there. But it's not about the question of it being there. It's about, after the processes that you've used to get it in you, are you getting all of that was there? And I find that to be very, very difficult.
Totally, man. And I think that we have to acknowledge the state of the industry, of our society. I mean, listen, the odds are good that you have access to plenty of fresh food, right? However, that's certainly not the case in a large percentage of the world. But with that said, is despite the fact that we have access to quote unquote fresh food, we also have to take into consideration, okay, well, are we eating a diverse amount of food, right? Are we eating lots of different fruits and vegetables and whole grains and animal, based proteins? And then where are these foods coming from? How long have they been sitting on the shelf? How far have they been transported? Then you said, like, how are we cooking them? Are we robbing them of the nutrients? And then, of course, once they're consumed, do we actually have the capability physiologically, based on existing nutrient levels, hydration status, just overall health, to be able to break down, absorb, assimilate the nutrients in the foods? And these are conversations that I have with clients all the time. It's like, yeah, like in a perfect world, you can get everything you need from your nutrition, but no one lives in this world, because, we say this about everything. We say this about managing our stress. Like, yeah, we're all super freaking stressed out for all of the myriad of reasons, right? And so could we live in a world where we have less stress? Could we move to the mountains or the forest? Yeah, like we could, but are we going to? Probably not. So we have to acknowledge that there's going to be some limitations in place. And I think this is where it's like, okay, well, it's very logical then to have supplementation come into play.
That's exactly right. Yeah, this lifestyle conversation happens all the time, right, Ben? They'll say, well, gosh, my grandfather, didn't have supplements and he's 92 years old, or my dad or whatever, and I'll say, no, my dad's 83 years old and he was just in Morocco and Marrakesh dancing his butt off and doing it. And that's really fantastic. I'll say that a good percentage of individuals that are over the age of 80 years old and acting like my father has are genetic marvels. I think that they are genetically inclined. They were gifted in that sense. Okay, right? I really do. Also, then the second piece of it is that they did not have the same type of stresses that we have. And they also had certain stresses that we didn't have, that allowed them to be more resilient and stronger. I mean, I believe that, my dad living in a small farm of 100 people in India and, had stresses that actually allowed him to be more resilient and stronger that I didn't have and all that. So I really do think that you've got to look as all we're trying to say, let's forget about the word supplement. Let's forget about that word. Let's just look at it as ingredients and nutrients. Now, I know that they don't look like an orange. I know they don't look like, an avocado. They don't look like, but these nutrients, they're found in those foods. So if we are now saying, well, we're just trying to get more of those nutrients, and we're trying to get more of those nutrients because I can't eat enough avocados. Now all of a sudden the logic kind of changes. But I also understand when people start to say, well, wait a second, if you don't get this nutrient, or if you get more of this nutrient, now all of a sudden you've got this kind of, big, therapeutic, like benefit from it. You know what I mean? Right. And that's when it gets a little bit wiggly here, right? Like, is that the case?
Yeah, totally. And this whole approach, this whole kind of holistic approach is, frankly, because supplementation is not dissimilar to the way we approach Western medicine. It's this very targeted, almost aggressively driven, isolated nutrient. Like, well, if you suffer from this, you just take this supplement, or you just take this supplement. And even, to be fair, like naturopathic medicine in and of itself still takes this almost allopathic approach of, well, just because I'm prescribing supplements now, you still have this extensive protocol of isolated nutrients that you're piling on without necessarily focusing on the underlying factors. And so I like that direction. I think it speaks very much towards the type of message that we're trying to impart here on our listeners. And so with that said, I think everyone gets the idea now. We can say, all right, well, then there's certainly a case to be made about supplementing and making sure that we're addressing lifestyle. What's happening right now in the supplement space? What are you working on right now? What are you excited about? Like, what are we going to see here down the road that perhaps is new and different, that, is just firing you up?
Yeah, I think, you're going to see a lot more botanical, herbal-led formulations that are coming out. Like the last, probably, 8 months or 9 months, I formulated everything from, I've got a skincare and body care line to a women's health set of products for menopause and probiotics and cellular. I got an energy drink. I got all these kind of sort of things that are coming out or have come out or whatever. And I think that one of the things that I see a lot more of is these, herbal extracts and botanical extracts that are now highly purified, that are very potent, that have good research behind them. So more research is going into these types of ingredients, which is really fantastic because, you're really legitimizing not only just the benefit of the product, but how much you should be using of that product. And that's what's so key or ingredient, is that you got to be careful with using dosages, right? And, we hear, oh, milk thistle is really great for our liver. And so all of a sudden we buy a little tincture of milk thistle and we say, oh, well, I've been really bad to my liver.
Right.
So I'm going to use, a double dose rather than just kind of the dose that it gets. You can't be doing that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Right. But you didn't know and they didn't know because there wasn't any kind of real research that showed kind of what are the dosage levels that would benefit you, right? So I think that's one thing. But I think another big thing is getting back to the fundamentals, right? Getting back to the great things of protein and getting back to the great things of fiber and getting back to the great things of how to better hydration. These are the things that, I'm really excited about because they're the safest ways for you to actually get really healthy. And they're also the more inexpensive ways. Because I'll tell you what, Ben, this, it's like when some of these podcasts, which I listen to, and I think it's great, Huberman and Atia and all these guys, right? And they're the most popular podcasts now. They're more popular than even, some of the general, the Rogan ones and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
That just goes to show you that there's a lot of people who are interested in getting more out of their life. They're willing to do things. They're willing to make the effort. I would just like it so that they didn't have to feel like they had to go get some NAD drips.
Tomcat Ali and Fedosia. And, I'm with you, but is it advantageous to be drilling down into all of these myopic factors like, it's cool, it's interesting, but are we skipping so far ahead, right? And right, what did they say? Like, proverbial missing the forest for the trees, right? With people starting to take all this shit and still running themselves ragged. So that's the stuff that drives me nuts.
But you're exactly right. And I'll tell you what, most of the things that that is being promoted, not just they're being promoted, they won't help 99.9% of you.
Right.
They really won't. I know you hate to hear that, but they really won't. And the reason why that is because really those types of nutrients that are not the fundamental, okay, right? They're going to be that last bit of percent. Right. And that last bit of percent, you're not going to necessarily feel, okay, right? And then secondly, and most importantly, is that you haven't even built the foundation for those nutrients to really take effect, for them to be embraced by the body so that it gives you kind of this accelerated benefit. Like see, that's what many don't talk about, because it's not sexy to talk about that sort of stuff, okay, right? But if you look at what people in the research is showing, and this is why people poo-poo supplementation, understandably, is that it's saying, listen, there's a marginal difference in what you're really going to get, because most of you that are taking it are so deficient in other areas that it all of a sudden truly becomes expensive pee for you, you know?
Jeevers, I mean, I have clients who, when we first get started, I mean, these just freaking Excel spreadsheets of supplements that they're taking, and they're still, they're exhausted and they're overweight and they're anxious and they're not sleeping and testosterone's in the gutter. And it's like, tell me what else I should be taking. I'm like, bro, this is going exactly into what we're discussing here, but the supplementation is not the issue here. This is straight up lifestyle at play. And we'll spend 6 months, a year. I've had clients on for 2 years, and we are just now starting to talk about more advanced supplementation. And even as a prefacing it of like, this stuff might help in this very minutia kind of couple percent. So if you want to be a little more aggressive, now's the time for us to be doing this. But otherwise, like, we really need to focus on the big rocks. So I think that what you said around supplementing the big rocks, around fiber, around protein, around hydration, right? So perhaps electrolytes, like, going to consider supplementation, let's consider supplementing those kind of big rocks. So what do we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, beautiful. So think about supplementation like this, right? So I said it earlier, is that, the most important supplement or nutrient that you can take is the one that you are most deficient in. And each of us are different, right? Because we have different lifestyles, different, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, right? So you look at supplementation in two ways, right? Number one, the most bang for my buck. Okay, right? And then secondly, is that where am I going to be more deficient in because of my lifestyle? Okay, right? So this is how I look at it, guys, right? Is that, remember, I have access to all of these supplements, all of these nutrients. I formulate them. What ones are like my standard ones? No question, protein powder is number one. Okay. Number one,
yep.
Because I believe in the value of protein. I believe in the value of building muscle mass. At the very end of the day, there's nothing that you can do nutritionally that is going to outpace the value of building muscle mass physiologically.
No one listening is going to argue with you. This has been beat down incessantly in these conversations. I love it.
Exactly. It's like, listen, I know I love it. I love Tia talking about the fact that the hazard quotient between nutrition and building muscle mass is basically, you might as well just eat a bunch of jelly beans and it won't make a difference. But if you don't build enough muscle mass, it's going to give you colon cancer. You know what I mean? Right. And he's right. That's number one. Number two, if there was one kind of superfood outside of water, it would be fiber. I mean, I'm a huge believer in fiber. I think that fiber is, not only it is in the nutrient that absorbs and allows for toxins to bind, to move through the body, but it also has almost amazing physiological benefits, especially obviously with blood glucose. and sugar, digestion. I mean, these are the type of things, healing and helping the microbiome. I mean, at the very end of the day, it doesn't matter what you eat, it's what you absorb. So fiber is another big one, and it's really difficult to get, right? I mean, trying to grab 40 to 50 grams of fiber in your diet, I mean, it's not easy. So, but obviously supplementation can make it easier. Number 3, just like you said, anything that allows you to promote hydration. Okay, right? And what I mean by that, is obviously electrolytes. There's a difference between hydration and cellular hydration. Okay, right?
There you go.
And the cellular hydration is based on what that electrolyte balance is, those mineral balances are in the body. And one of those ones that I do like individually is I do really like magnesium. I mean, magnesium is just a fantastic nutrient that's difficult to get in our diets. Okay, right? And so now let's go into that. There's 2 that I like because the difficulty that you get in the diet, and that you get, if you do get it, you get a lot of bang for your buck. Magnesium is one of those things because, dark green leafy vegetables that are very bitter is not something people enjoy. And then secondly, omega-3. Omega-3 is one of the more powerful nutrients, difficult to get from fatty foods, fishes and things like that. And then for me, I do believe that a high quality multivitamin, multi-mineral is good because I like the foundation that it provides me for some of these other things that I'm doing really well with my diet. Okay, right? Yeah. That's it. Because you have to remember, guys, at the very end of the day, what is most important about supplementation is consistency and intensity. Consistency in the fact that you do it every day or you do it on a very frequent basis, right? And intensity means that the quality of nutrient that you're putting in. And this is where the quality comes in and the dosage comes in. If you do things consistently and intensity in this area, you'll get the maximum benefit out of it.
I'm on the exact same wavelength. Those are all in my kind of foundational pillars of literally like, that's 99% of really what we speak to clients with and provide for clients. Because beyond that, it's really so individualized and almost just completely not necessary if they're not focusing on all of the other things. I'm curious about this because the only other thing that I will say is potentially like a digestive enzyme. And this has definitely been something that's like really, really helped me over the years because I had massive digestive issues growing up. So I really had to do my diligence. And frankly, this is like what got me into nutrition, was just figuring out my own issues. And part of that was like healing my gut and reestablishing the mucosal barrier and my hydrochloric acid production and all of that kind of stuff. But I found tremendous benefit in some digestive support. And so kind of the rationale there is like, I think digestion is perhaps one of the number one complaints for people and for purchasing of over-the-counter drugs.
I think digestive enzymes are fantastic. As you get older, digestive enzymes, you will produce less and less digestive enzymes. This is why some people say, oh, you know what? That broccoli just doesn't work with me as well anymore.
Right.
The broccoli hasn't changed. You've changed.
You talked about protein, and as we get older, there's a lot of people that start to establish an aversion to foods and an aversion to protein, an aversion to animal protein. But part of it is, it's my opinion, and I'm sure there's probably some research to back this up, but hydrochloric acid production goes down. And so anything that we can do to support the digestive process so that people can actually get enough, break down, absorb, assimilate the essential amino acids to utilize those, because protein demands go up as we age for obviously muscle and connective tissue and immune system function and all of that stuff.
Ben, this is a huge point. This is a great point, is that, you're right. We create aversions to foods because we don't feel good when we eat them. The reason why we don't feel good when we eat them has a lot to do with the fact that we're not properly breaking them down. So it could cause 2 things, guys. It could be a digestive kind of upset because it's very difficult for proteins and vegetables and fiber-rich foods and stuff to be broken down in the system. But then secondly, if you don't break them down, you will absorb larger particle sizes of these foods, which now your body, remember, it attacks things that it's not familiar with. And if you have a particle size that is too big, it's going to create an immune response to that. So now all of a sudden you have an inflammatory response, which now you don't feel good again. See, Ben, this is a very good point that most people don't realize as they get older, is if they don't take care of their digestive health, or if they don't, as you mentioned, support their digestive health, they're going to subconsciously, if you will, create an aversion to foods that are very healthy and good for them, because the ones that are very healthy and good for you are not easy to break down. They're hard to break down, right? And so you want to make sure that you do that. So that's a great point. I think just on that end too, is that, a lot of people think about probiotics. Guys, probiotics is something that helps you acutely, okay, right? I think that there is this kind of, probiotic craze that people get because, they hear about the great benefits that it does for your microbiome, for your digestive system, but actually you are doing greater benefit in feeding the microbiome, meaning those probiotics through fiber, than you are actually taking in probiotics. And so many times, people will take in probiotics and they die. And the reason why they die is because they have no food, because they're not consuming fiber. So it's things like that you kind of have to think about, a bit.
That's it. And we can take, we can break it down to the foundations all day. I mean, I say, I love digestive enzymes. However, if people simply drink more water, if they actually sat down and enjoyed a meal without being distracted or in a stressed out state, if they actually slowed down and chewed their food effectively, then perhaps it wouldn't even be part of the conversation. And I think we could definitely say that for other nutrients as well. And I think we've hit and certainly nailed the point down with respect to the necessity for kind of these foundational principles, which, dude, I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to have this conversation with you. So, Jeevers, where can people find out more about you, what you're up to, PRōZE? And by the way, we will have a special discount code for you guys for listening. We'll have a special discount code in the show notes, so I guess you guys can check out PRōZE there. But tell us where else they can follow you and everything that you're up to in the supplement world.
Yeah, awesome. So, like Ben says, I love doing education. I love talking about nutrition. I love talking about, wellness and nutrients. And so on my Instagram, which is Ask Jeevers, so AskJeevers, so Ask Jeevers, I just simply do nutritional knowledge. And so every week I just talk about various things, from how to cook your food so you can retain the most nutrient density, or to what are the best forms of collagen for you based on your issues, or talk about formulations. A couple of weeks ago, I did an Athletic Greens review, and the thing, I didn't realize how many people take that particular product.
It's very popular. Yep.
Super popular. And I kind of gave you guys a little bit of the insides of how these products are made, because, I've made greens-based formulas. And so maybe there were some things that you would miss on labels like that you can catch or whatever. So I've got obviously that. And then, if you want to check out some of the cool formulations that I've done with PRōZE, PRōZE is PROZE.com. And you're right, we have a cool little code for all of you. If you want to, save 25% off of any of our products, please. We love Ben. We love what you do and how you do it. So just put in, SMART 25. That's the code for you. And you can enjoy our products. And then, that's probably the two best ways of getting a hold of the things that I'm doing, so. Perfect.
So we'll have the link to Jeevers' Instagram account. So make sure you follow him there. Check out the PRōZE link in the show notes if you guys want to check out the products. By the way, this is not to toot your horn. Like I've been using your products for the last few years since I interviewed you the first time. Like we said, almost 100 episodes ago, almost 3 years ago.
Nice work,
I have
buddy.
to tell you, the one product we continuously come back to, my middle daughter, she's a gymnast. She's 11. So we use the topical cream. I'm spacing on the name right now.
Nerve.
The Nerve cream, dude. We use it for everything, by the way. Like we bathe in it. For her, she's always banged up. So it's, on her ankle, on her neck. My wife just the other day had a crick. So I was putting it on her neck and rubbing that in. The stuff is gold. The stuff is absolute gold. So, you're doing a really good job, man. And I love being able to support you and share your products. So keep up the good work. Thank you again for your time and energy and wisdom and effort and everything that you're doing. And I'll look forward to having you perhaps closer to episode number 300.
Yeah, buddy, that would be awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for this opportunity, and just love that we're fighting the good fight together. So
heck yeah. And thanks everyone for listening. Check out Jeevers stuff below. I'll catch you guys in the next episode.